watching Businessworld Live. I'm Danny Laurel. It's the start of a new trading day. Let's go straight to our top story. The Philippines has secured a fresh $250 million loan. That's from the Asian Development Bank for the purchase of more COVID-19 vaccines next year. The multilateral lender said the loan would allow the government to buy some 40 million doses for children and booster shots for adults. The vaccine procurement project will be co-financed by the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank or the AIIB. The ADB and AIIB will directly pay vaccine manufacturers for the doses that will be offered or ordered rather by the Philippine government. So far, 92.9 million doses have been administered in the country. That's according to data from the DOH. More than 37.4 million have already finished their second or single dose shots. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez says the Philippines has so far received 158 million COVID-19 doses, surpassing the government's delivery target. With this number, Galvez is confident that 54 million Filipinos will be fully vaccinated by the year end. Now, Union Bank maintains there were no breaches in its system. This after defrauded BDO users reported that their cash was transferred to a Union Bank account by the name of Mark Nagoyo. Now, in an interview here on Business World Live yesterday, Union Bank Chief Information Security Officer Joey Rufo said Mark Nagoyo is just a fictitious person. That's a pseudonym used by different account owners or the perpetrators behind the attack. Rufo added that there are less than 10 accounts involved in the controversy, which were promptly frozen along with the 5 million pesos in funds that would have been involved in the fraud issue. He also clarified that there were no fictitious accounts created with Union Bank, and Mark Nagoyo is just the name used by the perpetrators in transferring the funds to hide their real identities. Meanwhile, tech expert Art Samaniego said what happened is not a phishing attack against BDO users. In an interview with A Big Story, he said a phishing attack would signify a fault on the part of the account holder in giving out sensitive information to strangers. But since the victims of the BDO attack never gave out OTPs or any other vital information that may be used to access their accounts, Samaniego said the only explanation is that BDO system was compromised and the criminals got full access to the hacked accounts. Now back to Omicron, that is driving jitters across Asia's open this morning. And you can see on my terminal here how the US as well fared, and as well as Europe a little bit in the red there. This, of course, on the back of some new news. One person has died from the Omicron variant over in the UK, according to Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Further, a recent paper by the University of Oxford researchers found that 2 doses of Pfizer and AstraZeneca vaccines induced lower levels of antibodies against Omicron. China also reported its first case of Omicron, whereas Australia recorded its first hospitalization linked to the strain. And indeed, a lot of jitters here. Quite a mixed open. You can see the Nikkei 225 down by 2.3% over in Singapore. The FTSE Straits Times as well down by 0.13%. Now let's take a look at our own market open here. Going against the tide, we are up a touch by 0.1%, back to the 7,200 levels. We were swinging between 7,100 and 7,200 yesterday, but still edging our way above that level. Markets are still on the central bank watch. You've got the US Fed deciding on Wednesday. A lot of jitters on that. Their tone is very hawkish, whereas we will be following suit on the 16th, and we are expected to keep the monetary support, accommodative as per BSP Governor Ben Diokno. And he says in justification to questions on whether, we will be keeping in step with the Fed, he says no two countries are alike. The Philippines has necessary tools to address inflation, and in the event that the Fed raises the interest rates, we have hefty foreign reserves. He says he is confident we won't be affected by any such movement by the Fed. Now, of course, the banks are still in focus this morning. Let's take a quick peek at that open. That's down by 0.2%, and still the 2 big players in this new issue or attack of so-called scam, you've got BDO and Union Bank still the biggest laggards here. Union Bank down by another 1.7% this morning, and this, as the Banco Central says, it is now forming a task force that will be investigating this supposed online fraud uh, involving clients of BDO and Union Bank. And speaking of cybersecurity and threats, just a quick peek on the telco space. You got PLDT up by 0.2%, 1733. This, as they said on Monday, amid all of these attacks, that they are ramping up their investments in cybersecurity. They are trying to protect their customers from online threats. That's also been another issue. All of these, fraudulent job hiring schemes and text messages that we've been receiving. They said that that has declined already um, to around a little below 9,000 from more than 21,000 just a few days ago. Now, Globe has said they've invested 2 to 3 billion pesos already for PLDT rather has said they've invested more than 2 to 3 billion pesos already. Globe says they've spent almost $80 million in cybersecurity investments since 2015. Checking in on other headlines, we're keeping our eyes on vehicle sales have surpassed last year's total as of November. This as car and truck manufacturers reported their sales growth by double digits last month. Now, in a joint report by CAMPI and TMA, vehicle sales in November jumped by 14% to over 26,000 units as compared to the same month in 2020. This was also a 17% rise from October's vehicle sales, which stood at about 22,500. Now, Campi says this is their highest monthly performance so far in 2021. In the 11 months through November, the industry sold over 240,600 units. That's up by nearly 23% compared to last year. Now, Campi says surpassing the previous year's performance gives the industry a renewed hope that recovery is underway, but they remain cautious on the uncertainties brought about by COVID-19 mutations. Finance Secretary Sonny Dominguez said he is backing a proposal to extend the validity of an EO that will increase pork import volumes until the end of 2022. Now, recall that the government raised the minimum access volume for pork imports to over 254,000 metric tons from the previous 54,000 metric tons. This was in a bid to address the spike in pork prices. However, Dominguez said he is not entirely satisfied with the implementation of such measures. Still, he said he supports the NEDA's proposal to extend the validity of this EO until next year. Now, we seem to be sitting out the Omicron panic for the meantime, at least. You've got Filipinos making the most out of this festive holiday season, and here to share with us how our consumption behavior has been, we have with us Stephen Kua, President of the Philippine Amalgamated Supermarkets Association. Good morning, Sir Stephen. Welcome back.
Good morning, Dan.
Sir, how many days before Christmas? I think 10 or 11. How is the supermarket rush going? Foot traffic, is that better than expected? How do you expect to close the end of the year?
Last minute shopping by corporate buyers, no, for their clients, for their employees, as well as those for community pantries, no, scrounging for goods on wholesale basis, bulk in bulk, no. For the retail market, supply is good. Kaya lang for those who are, who all of a sudden want 500 to 1,000 to 2,000 bags or, you know, uh, items, no, of a particular cheese, be it tomato sauce, no, medyo pahirapan ng konti na dahil na-distribute na eh. It's already, like you said, just over a week before Christmas Day.
Okay, sir, how do we compare to last Christmas in terms of the amount of growth, amount of foot traffic, and just general recovery of the industry?
Well, still hard to say, but there are more people going out already. Business and consumer confidence has grown, no, because of the lowering of the infections per day, no, the numbers, no. So that's good news. But again, we gotta be careful and make sure that it's still jolly come January, no. Otherwise, we're in for another lockdown, and that's not gonna be good for 2022.
Sir, how long do you expect it to take for us to go back to pre-pandemic levels, or are you already seeing that?
It's very difficult to say because example, I'll give you an example. If you didn't go to a buffet 5 times, you normally go to a buffet, let's say 5 times a year, you can't eat 5 times this 1 week to go, right? So siguradong hindi mababawi, no? Uh, Maybe by the end of next year, no? Come election, that's a signal, no? I mean, the spending during election will probably help boost the lack of sales during the last 2 years.
Sir, so hindi na nabawi. For instance, you mentioned you can't have buffets anymore, so we're cooking at home. And this is, of course, going to the supermarket is a staple in everybody's consumption habit. So why is that the case? We were expecting that because of lockdowns nga, people won't be able to go out and eat, and that would be offset by in supermarket sales.
Income. A lot of people kulang butas pa rin ng bulsa, no? They're waiting for their 13 months kung may trabaho pa sila. Ayuda, let's say because of elections and candidates, no? And remittances from mga loved ones from working abroad, no? So before these pour in, they want to buy, but they don't have the access and they don't have the money to buy. Yeah, that's what's
Okay.
pulling off demand. Yeah. Mm.
All right. So hindi pa rin sapat. So
Mm.
despite the fact that, we've had closures, our income is still lower, people are still buying less. Sir, in light of that, a lot of eyes are on inflation and how
Yes.
that is causing an even bigger dent in consumers' pockets. The government's response is to put, SRPs, but you are pushing back on that. Why is that, sir?
Kasi importante ang free economy, right? I mean, people have a choice anyway. If a particular manufacturer prices its items, it's produced or out of the market, meaning say beyond what people can afford to buy for the product, for the category, um, they'll lose out, right? So they can only increase so much, no? So the government should allow manufacturers, retailers, no, to price at will. Why? People have a choice, no? Every corner you have a retail outlet, no, be it a convenience store, a supermarket, or a hypermarket, right? So nobody will want to price themselves out of the market. Competition keeps us in check. In fact,
Sir,
there's going to be a meeting tomorrow. There's going to be a meeting tomorrow, chaired
let us
by Secretary Lopez, no, of the National Price Coordinating Council. No, they're monitoring again movements of prices this season.
what are you expecting from that meeting, sir? Are you pushing that they take out SRPs, or the SRPs just going to be for the holiday season for specific items, for a
We,
specific period, or what's your expectation?
our stand has always been that SRPs, which is a form of price control, should be used only during times of emergency or calamity. No, not the whole year round, right? Because we're not a communist state, right? I mean, in Hong Kong, you can buy a camera, which is so much cheaper on the next shop lang, no? So you have a choice. You have a choice. Uh, Anybody who prices itself out of the market will be out of the market.
Okay, so what are you expecting, sir, to happen? Do you believe that they might be listening to the retailers instead, or will they be, doing this protection for the consumers? And if so, you mentioned, sir, only during emergency period. When do you consider it an emergency for these things to be put in place?
Listing of SRP is fair even for retailers if they consult the retailers because the SRPs come from the manufacturers and the manufacturers position themselves. No, the pricing is a positioning strategy. So, they price themselves very low for us not to have enough margins to cover our costs. So, if they consult us, no, if DDI, government consults us, let's say 3 days, give us 2 days, 3 days, no, to ask, are these prices fair? Then it would have been good, which was what was done before. Pero after Yolanda, years ago, no, Yolanda pa to, no, they did not consult anymore the retailers. So, kumbaga, they left it at what the manufacturers, how manufacturers want to price their products.
Okay, so you're basically just asking for more engagement, not naman totally against the SRP. So hoping for more dialogue on setting the price based
Also,
on your needs. Yes, sir. Go
also,
ahead.
also the fact that sana, during times of calamity, typhoons, earthquake, talagang, the government declares a state of emergency or calamity, that should be the time to use SRPs, di ba? Otherwise, laissez-faire, no? I mean, free economy, it should be moving on its own, no? Let it grow, let it grow. Yeah, let the economy grow.
Okay, sir, give us an idea of the trend in prices. Because we've been seeing inflation nga, going through the roof when it comes to food specifically. Now that hopefully supply chain issues are getting better, maybe the weather
Mhm.
has gotten better. Are you seeing that naturally, just by virtue of competition, just by virtue of supply chain issues being solved, that the inflation issues when it comes to just your normal basic goods is manageable naman?
Like I said, pricing is a management strategy. Okay, so it's positioning. Throughout the year, there have been increases, but again, not across the board. Number one. Number two, not on all categories. Number three, not all the items of a category. For example, milk. No, hindi lahat ng klaseng milk sabay nagtataas. This Christmas, this December, may dalawang brands ang nagtaas, kondensada. Okay? But they're not the prime brands. So they went up by 6%. Wow. But 6% increase for them is still lower price than the major brands. See? So it's a strategy. So allow them to move freely because if they lose market share, no, manufacturers are very wary of increasing prices because they're afraid of losing market share. It's so difficult to build market share. Yeah.
Sir, in terms
There
of
are
the
increases. Yes.
yes, sir, the retailers, is that what they're hoping to achieve? To be able to at least price fairly na mababawi nila, instead of taking some price cuts but increasing the foot traffic and the volume of consumption happening.
Well, I guess the manufacturers are thinking that this Christmas medyo mas iikot ang pera, no? So they're
Mm.
thinking that people will spend a bit more loosely than before, than belt tightening and all. So some of them have been increasing some of their prices. But again, manufacturers have around 30, 40, 50, 100 plus items no, that they carry. And they increase only a few of those items this month, maybe a few more next month. It's a strategy, see? And not even all the sizes of a particular item increase sabay-sabay. Vaccine, for example, may tumas by 9% this Christmas. Wow! But that's only one size. Only one size. So, maging, kumbaga, uh, be critical when you buy, no? If you're lalo na you need belt tightening, then you'll be able to shop comfortably with the money that you have.
Okay, so it's your to do the budget, di ba?
Yeah.
Don't go there blindly. Sir, are you seeing so-called revenge spending? Because you mentioned that people are tightening their belts, some were still very conscious about spending. Are you seeing a different type of behavior in spending? And also, what about the online e-commerce, supermarkets? Is this becoming a threat or an opportunity for the retailers?
Okay. When you say revenge spending, that's a habit. So some people, even if they don't have the money, they'll go revenge spending. Okay. And some people, if they have the money, they'll still do some belt
Correct.
tightening. Okay. So it's a habit, no? But there will be some revenge spending for sure. No? Lalo na food. And then you're talking about online. It's both a threat and an opportunity. Okay. I mean, a lot of retailers have gone online during these last 2 years and it has helped them in their sales. But again, online buying or online sales is a very small portion of total sales. So physical shopping pa rin ang majority of sales in retail outlets, retail food outlets.
So you don't think that's going to increase just because of changing pandemic habits?
It probably will as everything lasts longer. No, the pandemic. We're talking about the pandemic. No? In China, 2003, SARS was the reason why people have gone online buying, and ever since they've gone online buying in big time.
Okay, so one trend to be watching out for that maybe you could also tap into. Thank you so much for that update and good luck with the Christmas rush, sir. That's Stephen Kua, president of the Philippine Amalgamated Supermarkets Association.
Happy of the season, Dan, and Business World.
Thank you, sir. And that's a first look into the business day. Today's Tuesday, December 14, 2021. Catch Business World Live for the market close. It's at 3:15 p.m. today. I'm Danny Laurel. Mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.